Welcome back. I'm Pat, that Halloween movie collector. Today's video is went back to watch my favorite movie, the immortal classic, Halloween. It took me back to a couple months ago when we did a watch-along of Halloween with my good buddies from that horror movie podcast, Joe and Brett, where I compiled a list of all the Halloween goofs and continuity errors. And I came up with, let's see, there's a few pages here. These are just from ones I've noticed over the 43 years of watching this film, and a little research online and from other people. Okay, this is Halloween 2. I do have some from Halloween 2. That'll be a different video. And I got there's a total of 67 here. Now, some I did look and I really didn't see, but let's go through them all. And I'm going to pop up clips from the movie, and you tell me if you're seeing what I saw and whatever else is claimed they saw in this film. So here we go. First one, as the camera is panning towards the side of the Myers house, you can see all of the crew's cables and cords on the front porch. As it pans back, they are gone. Now, I saw this online and I copied it that way. Then I went back and watched it. It's actually the reverse. So as it's panning, as Michael's walking towards the house and panning around to look in the window to see Judith and her boyfriend, you don't really see the cords. But as he pans around before he looks up to see the light in Judith's bedroom go out, that's when you see the cords and everything on the front porch. All right, number 2. When Michael, as a child, walks through the living room with the knife, the clock above the stove shows 9:25. And the clock on the wall, as he's walking through as he's walking through the dining room, and the clock that you hear chime shortly is showing 9:40. But just 5 to 7 seconds later, as he starts to go up the steps, the clock chimes 10 times. Very interesting. Number 3. In the opening sequence, after young Michael grabs a kitchen knife from the drawer, he walks into the dining room and the camera silhouette can be briefly seen on the right side of the wall. I just looked at this right before I didn't want to scan everything. I wanted to get the video recorded, but I did look at it and you do see it. It's very brief. I'm going to show it up here in a second. And you can tell it's a camera because usually if you see a shadow of a person walking through a doorway, you see your shoulders, you're going to see a head. You can see it's square. So it's obviously the Panaglide. Number 4. After Judith's boyfriend leaves, young Michael walks up the steps to the sister's bedroom with a kitchen knife in hand. Her clothes are balled up together in a pile on the floor at the top of the landing. After he picks up the clown mask, which is basically a cut, is what we've been told. After he picks up the clown mask from the ground and puts it on, the pile of clothes are now trailing piece by piece towards Judith's room. So instead of it being just one big pile at the top, now you're going to see clothes strewn across. Number 5. After Michael kills Judith and runs down the stairs, he exits the Myers house. You can hear the click of the cylinder catch as he closes the door behind him. As the killer is revealed to be Michael, the young Michael, and the camera pans out, the front door is obviously open instead of being closed. So you can clearly hear as he's walking out, and you hear the door click and shut just before you see the father go, Michael, and pulls his mask off. You hear that door click as he's leaving. But then if you look behind him, you'll see the door's wide open. Number 6. After Michael has stabbed Judith, he leaves the house, and when the camera pans upward, all the lights in the house are on, but they were never on when Michael was inside, and he never turned them all on. But they were never on when Michael was inside, and he never turned them all on when he was exiting the house. So if you remember, when he walked, you see him upstairs, and you can see the other doorways. No lights are on, and when you're the front of the house, there's no lights on when it's panning in front earlier. But when he's standing there in that silhouette with the parents, the lights are on. Number 7. Now this one, the majority of people, I was surprised somebody brought this up somewhere. I was surprised that most people didn't know this, but I guess after we got new releases, 4K releases, all these different releases, you can see it clearer that when Michael is on top of the station wagon and goes to break the passenger side door where Nurse Marion is, you can see that he has a wrench in his hand hitting the window so he can shatter the glass. Yeah, this is pretty out. Most people know this one. Number 8. When Michael is attacking Nurse Marion in the station wagon, she steps on the gas, turning the car towards some trees. In the next scene, when she jumps out of the car, Michael jumps in and drives off. The trees aren't there anymore, and he's driving straight on a road. Yeah, so if you see as it's panning, you'll see they must have did it somewhere where there's a bunch of trees, and then where she jumps out and he jumps in should have been right in that same scene, but all of a sudden they're on a road and he just takes off. So it's very nitpicky stuff, but we, as Halloween fans, we're all very nitpicky. Now, number 9, we flash to the next day when Dr. Loomis is talking to Dr. Wynn, and they're walking out. As you're walking out and Dr. Loomis walks up to his BMW, what do you notice? Dr. Loomis is parked in a handicap spot. Why? You don't have handicap plates. Number 10, everybody knows this one because the whole thing was John Carpenter was trying to keep palm trees out of the scenery because obviously there's no palm trees in the state of Illinois. But as in the morning when Tommy and Lori meet up and they're walking towards the Myers house, you can clearly see the palm trees in the background. Yeah, this is one everybody knows. All right, number 11. Now this one was interesting. I had to go back and look at this one when I first found this out. After the boys trip Tommy Doyle, Vicky and Lonnie Elam, after the boys trip Tommy Doyle, they all run off to the left of the frame. When the camera cuts away, only 2 boys are running left, and Richie's running right towards Michael, and that's when he runs into Michael. Yeah, so go back and watch that. It's very subtle, but you can see it now that you know about it. Number 12. When Michael is stalking Tommy at the school, there are a few cars parked across the street from where he's heading. Once Michael gets into the car and starts, paralleling and watching Tommy, all of those cars are now gone. Yeah, very subtle, but you can see it. So they probably just did one shoot at 1 minute, shoot at the next, and they probably had the cars cleared for filming purposes. Number 13. When Michael follows Tommy in the station wagon, same scene, by the school, the passenger side window is no longer smashed from the previous night's attack on Nurse Marion. Now, number 14, we're flashing to Dr. Loomis when he's heading to Haddonfield and stops at the phone booth. So, when Dr. Loomis is on the phone in the phone booth, you can see mountains in the background. There were no mountains like that in the state of Illinois. So, there's another scenery issue. And same scene, number 15 here. When Dr. Loomis is talking in a phone booth after Myers escapes, it's your funeral. When he exits the booth and notices the abandoned truck, a crew member is reflected in the glass of the phone booth. This is one I only found out about a year or so ago because I never paid attention to it. But if you look, you can see the reflection of the cameraman standing there, probably Ray Stella. Number 16, now this is another continuity area issue, sort of like with the mountains and palm trees. So number 16, the scene that shows Lori, Annie, and Linda walking home from school starts with them walking from a school with outside lockers. Schools with inclement weather, such as Illinois, do not have outside lockers. Very true. So you can clearly tell that this is a school in California. Number 17 on this list. Walking home from school, the girls are seen to be traveling along a very dry street. However, when Lori is left alone and she gets home, the streets are now wet, so it must have rained between shots. Now here's another, I guess, just simple continuity error, shooting schedule error. Number 18, Halloween was on Tuesday in 1978, so there is no way Linda could have learned new cheers in the morning for a morning football game during school hours, and then spent the rest of the day getting ready for the dance later that night. Yeah, figure that one out. Number 19. Once Lori, Linda, and Andy start walking again after Michael drives past, a white cloth can intermittently be seen at the extreme right of frame. Now this one, I gotta go back and check. And if it's true, you're gonna see it in a moment.
I hate a guy with a car and no sense of humor.
I didn't see it, did you? Number 20. Annie moans about having to babysit at the Wallace's house, and Lori says she's babysitting at the Doyle's house, which is only 3 houses down. Later in the movie, the Wallace house is shown to be across the street from the Doyle's house. Yeah, that's very obvious. Everybody knows the iconic scene of Michael walking across, and even before that, earlier, even before that, Annie and Lindsay are seen walking across. So yeah, they're not 3 houses down. They're diagonal across the street from each other. All right, now here's another one I'm going to have to go check, and if it's true, You're going to see it in a moment. 21. When Laurie and Annie are walking down the sidewalk and Laurie sees Michael standing next to a bush, the infamous hedge. From Laurie's point of view, the bush is trimmed and neat, but when Annie walks up to the bush, it's all bushy with leaves sticking out everywhere. So maybe it was shot in two different, maybe they decided to trim it, not realizing it, but let's take a look at it.
Hey, creep.
I didn't notice a difference, did you? Number 22, this is a famous one that everybody knows because it was in several documentaries and that highlighted some of the goofs and gaffs. When Annie is telling Laurie that there is no one behind the bush, you can clearly see John Carpenter's cigarette smoke float through the scene. Yeah, that's a very obvious one. Everybody knows that one. Here's another one that most people know. It's pretty popular. Number 23, when Annie and Laurie are walking away from the bush, you can see a crew member pop up over the bush on the right side of the screen. Yeah, you look right to the far corner. There's somebody must have been standing on the porch or standing somewhere over there right behind that hedge. And you'll see a little head pop right up. Actually, you can see them standing on the porch too. So here's another shooting issue that wouldn't make any sense, judging by the time of day and the way it's lit in the sky, depending on when the sun goes down. So here's a good one. So number 24. Due to daylight savings time, it would be dark when Annie picks up Laurie. In 1978, clocks were turned back the last weekend in October. So at the time she would have been picked up, it would have been dark. And it's clearly not. Here's another shooting issue that you can complain about, and I also have a story about this. So number 25, when Annie and Laurie stop at the hardware store after smoking pot, because the alarm was going off, and that's where Sheriff Brackett was. I find it hard to believe that Sheriff Brackett wouldn't notice the smell of pot. Well, it's not shown in the movie, but if you read the novelization, it's addressed in the novelization, and he does make note of it. He doesn't say anything to Annie and Laurie, but after the fact, he does say, oh, she's smoking that wacky weed or something like that. I have to go back. If you didn't notice, we do a Halloween novelization book club on here, and we did the Halloween novelization, so this was discussed. Go back and check it out. It's go check out the Halloween. I'll throw a link up here and some fun stuff. Here's another continuity error. Number 26. The alarm in the hardware store is still going off later in the day, and Sheriff Brackett details what was stolen. Mask, rope, couple of knives. Meanwhile, Michael would have done this hours earlier. Yeah, this doesn't make any sense either. And this was addressed in the book too, and I don't remember how the continuity was, but yeah, it doesn't make any sense how the alarm would be going off because it would have been earlier in the day. At the time he would have broke in, well, I guess he could have did it earlier before the hardware store does open up, but why would that alarm be going off all freaking day? Because now it's clearly after school, because they're after school and they're driving to their babysitting jobs. Here's another one that was pretty much a head scratcher. Number 27. After Annie picks up Laurie and they are driving to babysit, it is daylight. After they are supposed to be driving in town, they arrive at the Doyle house and it is dark out. Now, this was actually addressed in the novelization as well, which obviously came out after the film. There's more dialogue between the two of them in the car, and they're actually driving around town just to see who's there. They're just basically just killing time because, like I mentioned about the daylight savings time, at 6:30 it's dark. So they start driving when it's light out, and they're driving around, seeing who's around town and what's going on. So it's not like they just went directly from Laurie's house to the Wallace and Doyle house. There was a lot more driving around, which would have made a little bit more sense because it's like they're just driving across this town. How big is this town? Because 1 minute it's broad daylight, you get to the other side of town, it's pitch black. So yeah, a little bit of a head scratcher on that one. If we go into the shooting error, number 28. The Wallace house has its living room on the left side of the house, and yet when anybody enters the house, they go to the right of the door. They go to the door to the right inside the living room. So just picture the scene where Annie goes in to get the keys. She goes to the front door. She goes right. There's no place to go if you're looking in front of that Wallace house. Same thing with Linda and Bob. When Linda and Bob show up, he's carrying her across the threshold, flip the door open, walks in, and they go to the right. Another shooting error here. Number 29. The front door knob of the house where Laurie is babysitting is on the right side when seen from both sides of the door. Interesting. How is that possible? Because if you figure if it's on the right side as you open up and you close it, when you look on the inside, you're going to see the doorknob on the opposite side. Well, on the same side. Well, it'll be on your left. So the reason is because the interior shots were not shot in that house. There you go. There's your answer. Number 30. When Laurie is dropped off at the Doyle house, you can see that there are glass panels on the front door. All the remaining shots, you see the door is solid wood. So the only thing I can think of is maybe they were getting some glare on the glass. Because sometimes when they do shooting scenes where you have like sliding doors or whatever, they'll just take the glass out because it does a little reflection. Sort of like you see on my you always see on my glasses. So that would make sense. Number 31. Now this was addressed in the novelization too, so they did give you an answer. 31. Early in the film, Laurie goes to the Myers house to leave the key under the doormat. Later, when Sheriff Brackett and Loomis visit the abandoned house, they walk straight in. The door isn't locked. So, how did they know the door wasn't locked? But if you read the novelization, they address it because when they go to the front, they're both contemplating, well, how are we going to get in this house? Because they're assuming it's locked. They don't have a key. So, they were going to go through a window. Try to open up one of the windows when Brackett saw that the door was busted open. So Michael busted the door open to get in. So that was addressed in the novelization, but it was never brought up in the movie how they just were able to just walk in that door without a key. 31. This one I should notice because I'm probably stared at Nancy Loomis's butt plenty of times in this film because I've watched this movie 8 trillion times. So let's watch this and see if it's true. I'd never noticed this one. I think I did notice it when we did the watch along. But let's see. So when Annie is first shown spilling something on her clothes and takes them off to wash them, her panties are a solid color. Later, when she's in the laundry room, her panties have flower prints on them. So let's take a look. One thing you can say, Nancy Loomis had a nice butt. I'll give her that. Number 33. When Lindsay is watching TV, you can see a crew member duck down behind the couch off to the left of the screen. This one I noticed years ago because I remember just when I was watching it and you can see the person duck behind. You just see a shadow, like a black shadow duck behind Lindsay to the left of the screen. I remember watching it one night. I was like, what the fuck was that? And sure enough, that's what it is. Now here's just a simple shooting continuity error. So number 34. The television is playing The Thing from Another World out of order. So as you're watching Lindsay watch it and Tommy over the course of the film, the scenes that are on the TV are completely out of order, so they're not watching them in sequence. Interesting. Here's another, I guess, sound issue. And we're going to take a look at it in a second. So number 35. When Annie is on the phone with Laurie, the dog Lester comes into the kitchen. We hear him growl, yet by his face, he is clearly merely panting.
News for you.
So they must have put a soundbite of a dog barking in there. He then begins to bark sharply, yet his tail is wagging, and he is clearly looking at the trainer coaching him. So he's obviously watching whoever the dog trainer was on set.
Hi, Lester.
Number 36. After Lindsay agrees to Annie's suggestion of watching the horror movie with Tommy Doyle at his house, they immediately leave with a throw blanket and a bowl of popcorn. The TV was left on, and the cushions and a newspaper on the couch were disturbed. When Annie returns for her car keys, the cushions and newspaper are propped up neatly, and the TV is off. Number 37, and this speaks to how this film was touted as not having any blood. There was no blood in the budget, but it was not a bloody film by just no stretch of the imagination. Number 37, when Michael cuts Annie's throat in the car, you did not see any cut or blood. You do see blood later when Laurie finds her body in the bed. And you also see it, obviously, in Halloween, too. This one is pretty cool because this one I noticed years ago, too. A little nitpicky thing here. Number 38. When Michael's carrying Annie around the side of the Wallace house, her head is on the left side of his body. When they cut back after Tommy's reaction, because he's looking, remember he's behind the curtain and he's looking, Annie's head is now on Michael's right side. So it just flip-flopped. Number 39. When Bob's van pulls up in front of the Wallace house, you can see the California plate on the front of Bob's van. Yeah, this one I noticed a long time ago, too. You can clearly see that it's got California plates, not white Illinois plates. And this one, I noticed years ago, always bothered me as a kid. I was like, seriously? Because this is something my father would have yelled at us if we ever did. So number 40. When Bob takes Linda out of the van and carries her, he leaves the passenger side door open. Later, when you see Laurie come across and shots of her looking towards the house, the door is closed. Maybe Michael got pissed and went out and closed it. All right, number 41. This goes back to the part where we talked about the Wallace house. When you look to the Wallace house, everybody seems to go to the right when they walk in, but it's the living room in the front. If you're looking at the picture of the front of the house is clearly to the left. So when Bob carries Linda into the Wallace house, they go to the right towards the living room. When if you look at the house, the living room, it would be on the left. Yeah, so we discussed this one a little bit earlier. Number 42. So this was probably because they were doing maybe some shooting during the day. After Linda and Bob call Laurie from the Wallace's house, they go upstairs to the bedroom to have sex. There is daylight peering through the blinds behind them, although it is supposed to be night. Yeah, you can see little breaks of light behind us, so maybe they just did shoot this during the day. Number 43, this actually happened before they went upstairs and had sex. And this one is well known. It was actually brought up in the documentary. PJ Soul said the same thing. When Bob and Linda get up off the couch to go upstairs in the Wallace house, you can see Linda trip over the camera dolly track. And she's discussed that in plenty of behind the scenes things. Number 44, this is the biggest complaint of most people. And it's actually clarified a little bit better in the novelization. It makes a little bit more sense because, well, number 44, Dr. Loomis is standing on the side of the Myers house all night long and didn't notice the station wagon was parked across the street until much later. Yeah, that is probably one of the biggest goofs because it doesn't make any sense how he's just standing, just happens to turn and all of a sudden the station wagon's there. Did you not turn around the whole goddamn night? In the novelizations, it's brought up that the car is not anywhere near the Myers house. It's down by the wall. It's down further by the Wallace and the Doyle house. And he's actually walking around because he was thinking to himself, well, you know what? I'm standing here all night long thinking that Myers is going to come back here, but he's a killer. There's nobody in this house for him to kill. He's going to go someplace else and kill. So this was brought up in the novelization, which would have made sense in the film. So he starts walking around a little bit, and that's when he sees it. And then the scene in the film where you see him walking and Brackett pulls up to him, that plays out as well. But that's why he's walking, and he's not near there, because he just happened to take a stroll around just to look around the area just to see, because it dawned on him, the light bulb went on, like, well, why is he going to come back here? He's a killer. There's nobody in this house to kill. He doesn't know I'm here, so it's not like he's going to come back and kill me. He's going to go someplace else to kill, which is exactly what he did. This one I noticed a long time ago, too. I'm a musician, so I'm always listening to music. Number 45. Once Dr. Loomis notices a station wagon across the street from the Myers house, the Halloween theme starts to play. And as he runs towards the station wagon, the theme for some reason speeds up. Had to jump in on this one. While editing this video, I realized I was absolutely wrong. I must have read it wrong while I was recording. The theme does not speed up when Dr. Loomis notices the station wagon. It actually speeds up right after the scene beginning earlier in the film where the girls are walking home and they see who they think is Devon Graham, and it's actually Michael, and they said, hey, jerk, speed kills. When he slams on the brake and the Halloween theme is playing in the background, listen to it. It slightly goes a little bit faster for some reason. It just speeds up. So that's actually where it was. Just wanted to jump in and make sure I got it right.
Speed kills!
46. This one we got to look at because I don't remember this, and we're going to review it now to see if we can see it. So, number 46. A boom mic is visible at the top of the screen when Michael stabs Bob. It shines light off and is clearly visible. See, the version I'm going to be showing, that I'm showing throughout this video, because this is probably the middle of the video now, is just it's a widescreen version. It's not like the 4K or anything like that. So maybe those 4Ks you can probably see it. But let's take a look. I don't know. I didn't see it. Number 47. When Michael is watching Annie in the kitchen, he knocks down and breaks the plant hanging in front of the door. Later, when Laurie approaches the same door, there is a plant hanging in front of the door. So obviously, they just shot out of order. So the plant was there for the later part of the movie, and then it broke for the earlier part of the movie. It just happens. I'm sure you probably see a lot of shit like this in other movies, but we're Halloween geeks, and all we do is just analyze every little bit of this movie. And this is what makes the movie so great. It's like finding little hidden gems. It makes it like a treasure hunt every time you watch this film. Number 48. After Linda is killed, when Laurie walks over to the Wallace house, she goes around the back on the left-hand side of the house. Yet, when the camera pans, you see her approach the back glass doors in the back to the right. In the next shot, she's approaching from the right-hand side of the house. So, yeah, it's just a little bit of a continuity error there. Number 49. The date on the tombstone above Annie says that Judith was born on November 10th, 1947 and died October 31st, 1963. That would make her 15, almost 16 when she died. Yet everyone says that she was 17 years old when she was killed. Number 50, this one I don't remember too, so we're going to take a look at it too. When Laurie goes into the living room on the Wallace house, you can see the arm of a crew member protruding from the left wall. This I remember, I thought it was just a Laurie's shadow, but you know what, let's take a look.
All right, you meatheads, joke's over.
Number 51. When Laurie investigates the upstairs bedroom of the Wallace residence, she pushes the door wide open before finding the bodies of Annie, Linda, and Bob. When she runs out the hallway in shock, the door is only partially ajar. Let's take a look. Just after Laurie is slashed on the left arm by Michael's knife, she turns around screaming and then falls backward over the stair railing to the landing below. If you watch closely, when the camera shows her falling over the railing with her legs pointing upward, a harness with a rope attached can be seen around Jamie Lee Curtis's left wrist/arm as to prevent her from really falling down to the first floor. Yeah, this if you look close enough, you can see. 53. When Laurie is trying to escape the kitchen during the initial Myers attack, a small light with blue gel to simulate moonlight is seen in the left side of the frame. Oh, this is simply for the widescreen version, which I think is the widescreen version I'm showing here. Let's take a look. 54 rather. While Michael is breaking through the door to get into the kitchen to get Laurie, he unlocks and opens the door. Then it cuts to Laurie, and when it cuts back to Michael, he's opening the door again. 55, and yeah, this one I noticed a long time ago too, and it's clearly visible. Everybody's seen this. When Laurie is trying to open the glass doors of the Wallace house, you can clearly see the one glass pane of breakaway glass. Yeah, like that sugar glass or whatever they call it. You can clearly see that's the one that she's going to have to break. And this one was probably just clearly for safety reasons, but it's visible. Number 56. Being chased by Michael Myers, Laurie finds herself trapped in the kitchen by a rake blocking the exit. Which, I don't even know if I have this on this list. It might be up further. Like, how the hell did that fucking rake get there? Because when she walked in, Michael is supposedly hiding upstairs. Unless he snuck behind her that whole way. We don't know. Because he is, like, cat-like. But yeah, how did that rake get there magically? But being chased by Michael Myers, Laurie finds herself trapped in the kitchen by a rake blocking the exit and brazenly breaks a glass pane to get away. The shards are angled jaggedly in the frame when she pushes her hand through the opening. But when the camera shows another angle of Laurie pushing the rake aside and running out, the broken glass is completely missing. Like they must have just pulled all the glass out so she didn't get cut. 57, another continuity thing. When Laurie escapes out of the back of the Wallace house, she runs towards the right side of the door. In the next scene, she's running out towards the left side of the door. It's like, make up your mind. Which way are you going? 58. When Laurie is hanging on the Doyle house, when she's banging on the Doyle house, rather, the front door, you can see the knob is on the right. When they cut inside, Tommy unlocks the door on the right instead of on the left side. Yeah, this is what we addressed a little bit earlier. It's the same thing, that the interior shots were not shot at that house. This is another nitpicky thing, number 59. When Laurie tells the kids to go upstairs at the Doyle house and goes to shut the lights off, you can clearly see that the light switches are already in the off position. Number 60. When Laurie runs back into the Doyle house after being chased by Michael, she notices the living room window is open. When you look closely, you can see a fan that is being used to blow the curtains. Yeah, I saw this one years ago, and a lot of people just recently noticed that. Yeah, you can see that the fan is behind there blowing it. It's very subtle. 61. When the shape attacks Laurie while she is hiding in the closet, the position of the clothes as well as the types of clothes hanging in there change frequently and in every shot of the closet afterwards. So as they're panning back as they're in the closet and she's being attacked by Michael and he's breaking stuff, notice everything changing from frame to frame. And there's another change too, which is coming up that I know is going to be on this list. And this is the change I was saying. This one I noticed years ago as well. 62. In the closet, when Laurie reaches up and grabs a hanger to stab Michael in the eye, she grabs a brass-colored hanger. When the camera cuts back, the hanger she is bending has changed color, and now it's a white hanger. Here's another issue, and everybody knows this one too as well. 63. In the movie's climax between Dr. Loomis and Michael Myers, Michael falls from the balcony of the master bedroom to the backyard below. Lori had put the kids to sleep here shortly before being pursued. When Lori was being chased before and realized she lost the keys to the Doyle residency, Lori managed to get Tommy's attention by throwing a pot. I remember there was a little potted plant up there. Well, how did she throw that potted plant up there and get his attention if it's the front of the house and there's a balcony? Well, it's clearly because the balcony was on the backside of the house, which makes it even more or less sense in Halloween 2 because he falls off the front of the house in Halloween 2, which is he also got shot 7 times in Halloween 2 too. So let's not get too picky now. 64. Yeah, this is another one I noticed years ago. So 64. At the end of the film, there are shots of the interior of the house as it appeared after the events. One shot is taken from an earlier shot because the knife used in the closet scene is still sitting on the floor in the living room in front of the couch. So you can tell these were like, I remember Tommy Lee Wallace talking about how he did this at the end, and these were just like frame shots that were taken before a scene. So obviously he put those all together and didn't realize that knife was still downstairs when it should have been upstairs. 65. I didn't see this one, but maybe people have seen it in the 4K restoration because you see a lot of shit. And the shot facing the Wallace house at the film's conclusion, if you look very closely, you can see what could be a crewman moving in the darkness on the left of the screen. So I guess that shot of the Wallace house. Somebody just mentioned this before. I think it was when we had the guys on with the Halloween 2 game. They had mentioned they had just seen that. I think that was those guys. But yeah, let's take a look at it. I don't know if we're going to see it in this version because the version I'm going to upload is one I have on my computer, and it's a widescreen version from years ago. It's not like I said, it's not like a 4K or one of the other billion reissues. Maybe I'll upload a newer version eventually, but let's take a look. And number 66. In the last shot of the Myers house at the end of the movie, you can see the gutter was still intact after it had fallen earlier and broke the window in front of Judith's room. Another shot taken before a scene happened. And finally, we come to the end, number 67, and this is when this is not only a mistake in Halloween, but they made the same mistake in Halloween 2. In the ending credits, Michael is credited as Michael, age 23, when in fact Michael is 21. So yeah, that one is a little you fucked up the first time and you did it again the second time. So did somebody just copy and paste? I don't know. Yeah, how that happened, I don't know. But those are all the continuity errors, goofs in this wonderful film that we all love. And this is, as I said before, it just gives this film even more charm and nostalgia than it already has because you're always looking for something. I've been watching this movie for 43 years and I'm still looking every time I watch to see if I can find something nobody else found. It's like I said, it's like a treasure hunt, like a scavenger hunt. And that's just what makes it so charming, and that's why it's so beloved, and everybody loves this movie. Well, not everybody, I guess, but everybody that's watching this because we're all Halloween fanatics, and I just love this film, and it's arguably the only movie I can... Well, no, that's not true. There's several movies I can watch that I just do not get sick of, and this is one, like I said, going on 43 years, and I still love it. So that is all of them. If I missed any, by all means, comment below. Let me know. I want to add them to this list. So if there's something that I didn't have on this list that you noticed, I'm going to go back and I'll just do another part to this and say, shit, so-and-so told me, hey, I missed this. And because there's a total of 67 here, let me know if there's more. I'd like to know because I want to take a look at them and I'll bring them up in another video and we'll talk about it. Go check it out. I think it was a couple months ago. Yeah, we did do the Halloween watch along and I read a lot of these as we were watching it. So go check that out. That was a lot of fun. We'll probably do another Halloween watch along when October comes around. I got to see how it pans out because me and my two knucklehead friends, Brett and Joe, that horror movie podcast, where all three of us are going to H45. So we'll get I'm coming back on October 6th, so I'll have plenty of time. We'll have plenty of time to watch that. But there's going to be a lot of stuff that we filmed at age 45 that we're going to be showing on a subsequent podcast and probably some standalone videos because when we get out there, we're going to be shooting so much shit because there's so many people we're going to meet up with and shoot everything that's going on at the convention, everything on the Horror Hallowed Ground tour. Looking forward to sitting at the Buccaneer and having a drink with Tom Atkins. And I'm going out a week earlier. I'll be out there for a whole week, actually 9 or 10 days. So I'm going to go to, even before we do the bus tour, I'm going to go hit all the different sites and take some footage and pictures. So there's going to be a ton of H45 shit. So for those that aren't able to go, hopefully we can give you a real good insight into it and we hope you enjoy it. So I'm looking forward to that. But for now, do me a favor. Like this video. And like I said, comment below. If there's something I missed or something you're not seeing, let me know. You know, I'm a geek when it comes to Halloween. I love to know this stuff. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you're a Halloween guy, there's tons of Halloween shit on here. There's tons of horror shit on here. There's tons of shit on here. There's a lot of shit. So feel free to roam around. If you're a Kiss fan, there's a bunch of Kiss stuff on here. Probably be some more music stuff coming up too, but all horror shit. We do watch-alongs, reach-arounds. We pick our nose. You scratch our ass. There's so much shit here. So hopefully you enjoy the other content. And until then, I guess I'll talk to you soon.